Now, with this demonstration, I've been using this really simple setup because I wanted to get these renders done quickly, but it's unlikely that you'll ever be doing a render of a torus next to a plane in this one lighting situation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on a sky dome light. And the sky dome light, it's just got a file attached to it, and it's going to give me lighting from all directions. So this is giving me a much more diffuse light situation, and you can see how that really changes the way that the glass renders. At this point, I might even take my directional light and just turn it off. Don't really need it anymore. And that should give me a little bit less of that overbright feeling. So when you get your actual light set up in the scene, you may find that it significantly changes the way that your objects render. As such, it's going to be really helpful for you to know 2 or 3 things. The first thing, and I think I mentioned this briefly in the previous video, let's see, this is the shadow material, so let's call this my glass shadow facing ratio. You've got 2 attributes within the facing ratio itself. You've got bias and gain, and they control what the facing ratio is doing. It may take you a little while to get used to using them, but at some point you'll be able to say, well, in this lighting situation, I just want this to be a little bit stronger. Let's see what happens if I turn the bias to 0.1. And if I turn the gain to 0.9. You may see a difference, you may not, and you're just going to have to play with it until you get it. And that's going to go for both the shadow facing ratio and the caustics facing ratio. The other thing that I do think is going to be helpful to remind you about, I hope we've talked about this before, just in case we haven't, when I go into my color values, my color attributes are almost like light intensity. So this value slides between 1 and 0, where 0 is black or off, and 1 is on or everything. I can actually type in values that go above 1. So if I come into my emission, I go to my value and I type in 3. What that'll do is it will increase the brightness of the glow coming off of my object, which should give me a stronger caustic effect. So if you're just not seeing enough of your caustics, feel free to go into your emission, go into your color, and just crank that value really high. That will make your emission a lot stronger and will make your caustics much more evident. And you might want to do that if you're dealing with something like a precious stone of some sort, where the caustics would be really high. The torus, it's not going to be all that effective, sadly. But if I go back to my original demo render, on this one I am using a caustic effect of 3, and that's why I'm getting a nice little orange glow underneath the entire statuette. So a lot of this is going to be to taste, especially because the caustics are inaccurate and they're just going to give you a little halo. But remember that you can adjust with the bias and the gain, and also with your color value. Values above 1 will give you a stronger effect. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope that you're able to generate a more accurate glass shader at this point.